Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, Shelves of Silence. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. The clipboard rests on the workbench under a single clamp lamp, its metal clip catching the light with a dull, familiar gleam. You let the studio door close behind you, the latch clicking soft against the midnight quiet, and the air inside holds a baked, dry weight that tells you the kiln is still warm. The kind of warmth that has settled into the brick walls and the concrete floor, not just the air molecules. You breathe in clay dust and the faint metallic tang that lingers after a firing, and you stand still for a moment, letting the room tell you what you need to know. The kiln sits in the far corner, a squat tower of brick and fiber insulation, its lid sealed with a thin line of kiln wash that has flaked white along the seam. The peepholes are plugged with soft brick, each one a perfect cylinder of insulating material you've learned to handle with just your fingertips. 3 of them, low, middle, high. You don't touch them yet. First you pick up the clipboard. The firing log hangs from the clip, pages curling at the corners from studio humidity and handling. You thumb to today's entry, July 12th, Cone 6, 11:47 p.m. shutdown. Below that, in a column you've seen dozens of times, are the names: Marcus Top Shelf Bowls, Yuki Middle Mugs plus Test Tiles, Sam L Lidded Jar, Cool Slow, Maya and Devon, Plates, Bottom. Each name marks a shape you can picture but don't need to imagine fully. Your job is not to picture. Your job is to keep the kiln closed, the temperature dropping steady, the night uneventful. You check the controller mounted on the kiln side. The display glows amber in the dim room, 427 degrees Celsius. The elements are dark, the relays silent. The kiln is sleeping, but fitfully, like any heavy body settling into rest. You note the time, 12:03 a.m., and the temperature. Your handwriting is crisp, careful. You haven't settled yet. The studio around you is a landscape of shadows. The wedging table, its plaster scarred and dusted with dried clay crumbs. The glaze buckets, lids weighted with cinder blocks, a faint shimmer of overspray on their sides. The sink dripping in a rhythm you'll come to know over the next hours. A slow, metallic plink against stainless steel. Everything is waiting, but not for you. You are waiting with it. You set the clipboard down and begin the first round. You cross the room with steps you deliberately soften. The kiln's heat is directional. A foot away, your face feels it, a dry pressure against your skin. 2 feet away, it's only a memory. You stop at that middle distance, where you can sense the mass of it without crowding. The kiln is still speaking, small sounds that feel huge in the silence. A tick from the brick as it contracts. A faint ping from a shelf post shifting a micron. You close your eyes to listen better. The sound is not constant. It comes in clusters, then long pauses. You count 5 seconds between one tick and the next, then 20. Then a brief flurry of 3 in quick succession, like rain on a metal roof but quieter, more interior. This is the kiln exhaling. You let yourself stand there for a full minute, just listening before you reach for the flashlight in your pocket. You use the flashlight like a tool you respect, not a toy. A quick press of the button, a narrow beam you aim only at the peephole, never sweeping the room. The middle plug is seated flush, its circular face showing a faint crescent of kiln wash where the last person brushed it before inserting. You touch it only with the pad of your index finger, testing its give. It is firm, snug, no draft pulling at its edges. You do not remove it. You do not need to see inside. The cone pack is back there, 3 small clay witnesses bent to tell a story you will read tomorrow, when the kiln is cold and the light is natural. Tonight they are none of your business. But you glance. Just a glance, angling the flashlight so the beam skims the edge of the peephole's interior. You catch a flash of orange, a sliver of the firing cone's bent tip, then darkness. Enough. You turn the flashlight off. The dark returns, deeper for having been briefly pushed away. You taste kiln wash dust on your fingertip, chalky and neutral. 12:17 a.m. You return to the clipboard, note the time, write. Peeps seated, no draft. The letters are smaller now, less declarative. You are already settling into the economy of attention this night requires. You cap the pen and set it down, aligning it parallel to the clipboard's edge. You choose a stool near the door, where the air is cooler. The kiln's heat gradient is a geography you can map without looking. Close to it, your forearms feel the air thinning, warm enough to make the hairs on your skin lie flat. Near the studio's outer wall, the night presses back through the brick, a coolness that smells faintly of wet pavement from the earlier rain. You settle where both temperatures meet, your body finding equilibrium between heat and cold. The firing log sits in your lap now, pages heavy with the names of people who trust the process. You read them again, not as a roster but as a texture. Leela, bowls with iron slip. You imagine only the weight of bowls, the drag of a coarse slip across bisque. Talmas, lidded forms. The word lidded is enough, you don't need to picture the jars. The shelf map below the names shows positions. Top shelf, back left corner, posted high to avoid glaze drip. Middle shelf, front right, a half shelf to fit a single mug. Bottom shelf, dense with plates, posts staggered to spread the load. There's a sticky note adhered to the corner of the log, yellow and creased. Sam, slow cool past 1060 degrees Fahrenheit for crystalline. Thex, you recognize the handwriting, neat block letters in pencil. Sam has been working on that glaze for months, adjusting the chemistry, testing cooling schedules. You remember him mixing test batches at the scale station, muttering about titanium dioxide percentages. The lidded jar on the second shelf from the top carries that experiment. You look at the controller again. 427 degrees Celsius converts to roughly 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Still a long way to go. Hours. You let the notebook rest against your thigh and close your eyes for a count of 10, feeling your shoulders begin their first descent. The kiln ticks twice in quick succession, then a longer pause. The sound has changed pitch already, a little lower. The bricks are cooling past quartz inversion, giving up their tightest grip on the heat. You know this without thinking it fully. Your body knows. You glance at the controller without moving from the stool. 398 degrees Celsius. The numbers drop in increments that feel geological. You log this one without standing up, leaning to press pen to paper. 12:38 a.m., 398 degrees Celsius. The ink flows easier. The studio's other sounds begin to separate themselves. The refrigerator in the glaze room, humming on a 30-minute cycle, a water heater kicking in somewhere down the hall, a low rumble through the floor, the drip at the sink, which you now realize is not random but follows a pattern, 3 quick drops, a pause, 1 heavy drop, then silence for a count of 10. You match your breathing to this without deciding to. Inhale for 3, hold for 1, exhale for 1. The rhythm feels borrowed, not forced. You think about Marcus and his bowls on the top shelf. He threw them on a Thursday night while you were wedging clay at the next table. Porcelain, thin-walled, each one trimmed to a foot ring so delicate you wondered if they'd warp. He'd laughed at your expression and said porcelain always looks suicidal in the bone-dry stage. You'd watched him load them with the kind of care that doesn't announce itself, spacing them just so, checking with his phone's flashlight that no glaze pooled on the shelf. Now those bowls are resting on posts in total darkness, their glazed surfaces still soft with heat, and your job is simply to let them be. After 20 minutes you stand, not because the kiln needs you, but because your body does. You stretch your legs, roll your shoulders, walk a slow circuit around the kiln. You check the clearance, nothing within 18 inches, per studio rules. The glaze buckets are across the room, safe. A shelf of leather-hard pots sits under plastic, far from the heat. Someone's trimming tools hang on their pegboard hook, metal loops catching faint light. Everything is as it should be. Your role is to confirm what is already true. You pause at the kiln's side, hand hovering near the brick but not touching. The surface radiates warmth like a stone in late afternoon sun. You could press your palm to it and hold it there, but that would be a test, not a check. You keep your distance. The kiln is not a pet to be stroked. It is a closed system, and you are its quiet witness. 1:02 a.m. You note the time before you need to look at the clock, internal rhythm catching up to external measure, 375 degrees Celsius. The cooling curve is steady, predictable. You write it down, then add a bracketed note. Rate, roughly 23 degrees Celsius per hour. This is for you, a small act of pattern recognition that makes the wait feel like study rather than idle time. Your handwriting has loosened, letters rounding at the corners. You sit again, but on the floor this time, back against the cool wall. The clipboard rests on your knees. You look at the names and let them blur. Yuki middle mugs plus test tiles. She made 6 mugs, production work for a cafe order, and tucked a strip of test tiles on the shelf's front edge where she could pull them early if needed. Except you can't pull anything early. Not your job. Not tonight. The tiles will come out with everything else, in daylight, when the kiln has dropped below 150 and the lid can be cracked without shocking the clay. You close your eyes and listen. The ticks come less often now. Long stretches of silence settle between them, and you begin to feel the silence itself as a presence. It's not empty. It holds the faint hum of the glaze fridge, the memory of the last drip, the weight of the kiln's mass cooling inch by inch. You are part of this silence, not an observer of it. Your breathing has slowed without effort. The air you draw in tastes like dried clay, and the ghost of wood smoke from someone's soda firing last week. You exhale and the room accepts it. At 1:34 a.m., you stand to check the temperature and freeze. The controller reads 354 degrees Celsius, normal, but something is different. You stand very still, trying to identify what changed. Then you feel it, a faint coolness against your right ankle. Air moving. You crouch slowly, bringing your hand near the floor beside the kiln's base, and there it is, a whisper of draft, steady and thin, pulling toward the low peephole. Your pulse picks up, but you don't move fast. You've been taught this. Draft means air entering, which means heat leaving faster than it should, which could mean a crack in the soft brick plug or a gap in the kiln's seam, or it could mean nothing. Just the pressure differential between the hot kiln interior and the cool studio creating a small convection current that will disappear as temperatures equalize. You retrieve the flashlight and move to the low peephole, the one nearest the floor. You press your cheek close to the brick face, feeling for temperature. It's warm but not hot. You angle the flashlight beam along the plug's edge, looking for gaps. The seal looks intact. You wet your fingertip with your tongue and hold it near the plug's perimeter, an old trick. The faint evaporative cooling confirms it. Air is moving, but so slightly you could miss it if you weren't paying attention. The kiln ticks once, a soft sound that makes you hold your breath. You sit back on your heels and consider your options. You could remove the plug, inspect it, reseat it, but disturbing it might create the very problem you're trying to prevent. You could note it and continue monitoring. You could call the studio director, wake them for something that might be nothing. Instead, you retrieve the clipboard and write, 1:34 a.m., 354 degrees Celsius, faint draft at low peep, monitoring. Your hand is steady as you write. You set the clipboard down and return to the kiln, placing your palm flat on the floor 18 inches from its base. The concrete is warm but not hot. The draft hasn't changed the cooling rate enough to register on the controller. The kiln is not in danger. The load is not in danger. Sam's crystalline glaze will get its slow cooling. Marcus's bowls will not crack. You make a decision. You'll check the draft every 15 minutes instead of every half hour. You'll track whether it increases or decreases. You'll watch the cooling curve for any irregularity, and you'll do nothing invasive unless something changes. This is the skill no one teaches directly. This is the part where you have to trust yourself. You walk to the wedging table, running your hand over the plaster surface. It's gritty with dry clay, cool under your palm. A wire cutter hangs from a hook on the table's edge, its wooden handles smooth from years of use. You pick it up without thinking, feel its weight, set it back. These small touches anchor you. Object, texture, return. The studio is full of tools that ask nothing of you right now. At 1:49 a.m., you check the draft again. Your wet fingertip registers the same faint movement, no stronger, no weaker. 342 degrees Celsius. The cooling curve holds steady. You note both numbers, and your shoulders drop half an inch. At 2:04 a.m., the draft is barely perceptible. You have to wet your finger twice to confirm it's still there. 331 degrees Celsius. The kiln is dropping past the threshold where the pressure differential matters. The danger, if there ever was one, is passing. At 2:19 a.m., you check the peepholes one more time, all three, and find them cool enough to handle comfortably, each one seated firm. The draft is gone. The kiln has equalized with the room's air pressure. You log it, draft resolved, 2:19 a.m., then you add, smaller, held course. You stand by the kiln for a moment, hand resting on your own thigh, and release a breath you didn't know you'd been holding. Nothing happened. Nothing needed to happen. You watched, you noticed, you waited, and the kiln did what kilns do. The load is safe because you kept the kiln closed, even when your hands wanted to check, to fix, to intervene. This is the work. This noticing and not doing. You retrieve your thermos from your bag and pour half a cup of tea that has gone lukewarm. You don't mind. You sip it standing by the sink, watching the faucet drip, counting the intervals. 3 drops, pause, 1 drop, silence. The rhythm is soothing because it is mechanical and indifferent. The world continues its small cycles whether you watch or not. 319 degrees Celsius. You write it down, but the numbers feel less urgent now. They are documentation, not revelation. The kiln will drop below 300 while you are walking home, or while you are brushing your teeth, or while you are already in bed. This is fine. This is the point. The cooling curve does not need your eyes on it every moment. It only needs you to keep it closed, keep the door latched, keep the peepholes plugged. You have done this. You return to the floor, back against the wall, and let your head tip back to rest against the cool brick. The kiln ticks once, faint and distant, and then nothing for a long time. You count to 30, to 60. The silence holds. Your eyelids grow heavy. You don't fight it. You're still awake, still present, but the edges of wakefulness have softened. You are doing your job by being here, by waiting, by practicing the skill of not doing even when your instinct says do something. The clipboard sits beside you on the floor. You pick it up and flip back through previous firings. Different names, different loads, same steady progress. Cone 6, March 14th. Cone 10, April 3rd. Cone 5, June 22nd. Each page a record of patience. Each initial at the bottom a small signature of trust. You add yours to tonight's log. Not proud, just present. Witnessed. 2:47 a.m. You rouse yourself, blink the heaviness from your eyes, check the controller once more. 298 degrees Celsius, below 300. The kiln is nearly safe to touch, though still hours from opening. You make the note, cap the pen, set it down. The room feels different now, lighter somehow, though the darkness has not changed. It's the air. The baked weight has lifted. The studio smells like itself again. Damp clay, plaster dust, the faint solvent tang of underglazes in a cupboard across the room. You walk to the kiln one last time, not close enough to feel its heat anymore. There's barely any left in the air, but close enough to see its shape, its mass, its sealed presence. The peepholes are 3 dark circles in the brick face, like closed eyes. The lid sits heavy on its flange, the kiln wash sealing it tight. The bricks are silent. You wait, and hear nothing for a count of 20. Then one last tick, so soft you feel it in your chest more than your ears. A final contraction, a last settling. Silence returns, and you let it stay. The clipboard waits by the lamp. You pick it up. Review the column of temperatures marching down the page in steady increments. You initial the final entry, a small mark that simply says, "I was here. I held the course when it mattered. The load is safe." You straighten the pages, clip the pen to the top edge, set the whole assembly back on the workbench exactly where you found it. The metal clip gleams under the clamp lamp. You turn off the light. The studio darkness is not absolute. The exit sign glows red above the door, and street light filters through the high, narrow windows. You can still see the kiln's outline, a darker mass in the dark room. You can see the clipboard, a pale rectangle on the bench. You can see the path to the door. You gather your bag, your empty thermos, the small flashlight. You glance once more at the kiln, its peepholes plugged, its surface cooling toward room temperature at a rate that needs no supervision. Inside, on shelves you can't see, bowls and mugs and plates and a lidded jar rest in total darkness, their glazes hardening particle by particle into glass. They are not your bowls or mugs or plates. They belong to Marcus and Yuki and Sam L. and Maya and Devin and Lila and Thomas. Your job was to carry them through the night, and now you set them down. They are safe. You are done. You close the door to the kiln room softly, hearing the latch catch with a click that is barely a sound. The hallway is cooler, and your breath shows faintly in the air. You walk outside into the real cold, and the studio's warmth stays behind you, contained. The kiln will continue cooling, down through the hundreds, down to room temperature, down to where morning hands can open it safely. You have carried the names through the night. They are safe because you kept the kiln closed. The cooling curve continues without you. The last thing you hear before you start your car or unlock your bike or simply begin walking is the silence of a building that has settled into rest. Heat becoming memory. Responsibility becoming trust. Your own breath, steady and slow, matching a rhythm you no longer have to count. Thank you for spending this time with the Night Sky Reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.